All right, welcome back, everybody around the world, and welcome to all my subscribers. So, won't be any interruptions this time. So, I have great evidence that I can give in just a matter of a few minutes flat. We don't need to waffle and read out lengthy verses and get into long debates. And this is a narrow, focused topic for today. I'm not getting into all the side-related arguments and topics about why is or isn't Jesus the Messiah. We're just going to focus on one important thing. Arguably one of the more important, but nonetheless, in Judaism, they claim that Jesus, one of the primary reasons Jesus is not and was not the Messiah is because he died and didn't fulfill the messianic criteria while he was alive. The messianic criteria, as anybody from Judaism knows, is that it says the Messiah would get the whole world to worship God, and the whole world would be under this godly kingdom under the Messiah, and it would be world peace. And clearly we can all see that that was not achieved by Jesus in his lifetime or in nearly the last 2,000 years. It hasn't happened. So Judaism has always felt strongly that this is excellent evidence. They say that Jesus was a fraud. However, I have excellent evidence from the Tanakh itself. It'll only take a couple minutes to go through it, and let's get straight into it. This evidence will clearly show that the Tanakh itself, without any extraneous interpretation, but the Tanakh itself reveals clearly and logically, it reveals that the Messiah would come into visits. However, it is only in the second visit, as the Tanakh details, that messianic criteria would be fulfilled, meaning that messianic criteria of the global kingdom for God would not be achieved in the first visit. So where do we see this evidence? Well, we start off with the numerous verses that attest to the fact that the Messiah would be born of the lineage of David. He would be seed of David. Numerous verses state this. Everybody in Judaism knows this. I don't need to quote verses. Everybody knows that. Okay, but that's factoid number one. Okay, this implies, it means that the Messiah will be born as a mortal, a human, because he is of the seed of David, of the lineage of David. That is quite simple. Factoid number two is where in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, it says, I was seeing in the visions of the night, and lo, with the clouds of the heavens, as a son of man was one coming, and unto the Ancient of Days he is come, and before him they brought him near. And to him is given dominion and glory and a kingdom, and all peoples, nations, and languages do serve him. His dominion is a dominion age during, that passeth not away, and his kingdom that which is not destroyed. Now, clearly we can see that Daniel 7 here is talking about none other than the Messiah. It must be, because only the Messiah has this global kingdom for God. In the Tanakh, all the messianic criteria verses that talk about this global messianic kingdom, it's the Messiah who rules that. And it is in Daniel 7 here where it shows that this figure, this Son of Man coming from the heavens, is the one who will have that kingdom under God. So clearly this verse is talking about nobody else except for the Messiah. It's not talking about any other earthly king, because no other earthly king would have an eternal kingdom that will never be destroyed, and the whole world and all languages will serve God under. Okay, this is clearly about the Messiah. So that's factoid number two and factoid number one. The Tanakh has told us both of these facts. Now, how do we process these two facts together? Because they have to both be understood. You can't ignore part of the Word of God. You have to understand all of it. So all of the Word of God is true. So we have to understand these two factoids in relation to one another. The first fact said that the Messiah will be born of the seed of David, the lineage of David. That implies and states that the Messiah will be born on this earth. His arrival wouldn't be from the heavens, but it would be on this earth. He would arrive out of a womb, like any other person would. Okay? Also supported, I'll throw in there, I wasn't going to, Zechariah 9, which in Judaism is strong. The strong opinion in Judaism is that it's a messianic verse. But nonetheless, if you're arriving from a womb, born from seed of David on this earth, you're not arriving from the heavens. But Daniel chapter 7 says that when the Messiah, like figure, arrives from the heavens, that is when this global kingdom for God is had. Okay? When you process these two factoids together, because they are both true, the only logical conclusion is that the Messiah must come twice. The Messiah comes in the first visit, fulfilling what it says, that he would be born from a womb as a son of man, seed of David. The second fact is that at some point he must ascend up to the heavens, because he's going to be coming from the heavens in Daniel 7 to fulfill that great messianic criteria of the global kingdom for God. The only way you can process these two facts that the Tanakh itself presents is with two visits by the Messiah, two arrivals, one earthly and one heavenly. There's no other way you could look at this. Absolutely no other way. It is very, very clear from the logic and from what the Tanakh says itself that this is the case, that the Messiah would come twice. And we don't need to get into all sorts of other side arguments on this focused topic here. The Tanakh, I feel it does prove that the Messiah comes twice. Okay? If we break this down even further, Daniel 7, like I said, is clearly talking about the Messiah. No other figure, like a son of man, has this global kingdom under God. Nobody else does but the Messiah. Okay? The only counter-argument you could have against this is that to process both factoids together is that the Messiah will be born from a womb as a son of man, and that during his lifetime, with or without dying, but during his lifetime, he would ascend up to the heavens to then return back from. But there are no verses in the Tanakh that detail that the Messiah would ascend up during his lifetime. The only way we can make sense of this logically is that the first visit, since he is a son of man who emerges from a womb, that he would die, because all sons of men die. It is opinion in Judaism that when the Messiah arrives, at the end with the great kingdom and all of that, that he will be immortal, he won't die. But what we can ascertain is that the Messiah, in his first visit, being born from a human womb, he will die. He has to die. There's no way that he can't die, because all humans die. So using logic, it is fair to assume, based on the very fact that the Messiah is born as seed of David from a human immortal womb, that he, as a mortal, would at some point in his life succumb to death, as all of us do. Okay? So when you combine what the first factoid reveals, because none of those verses saying he is of the seed of David say that he will not die, it's fair to assume that this first visit, he would die. It's logical to assume, because of the righteousness that the Messiah possesses, that after he dies, he'll be worthy of going to the heavens, to the paradise. And so it's therefore logical, when you combine factoid 1 and factoid 2, that he would then return from the heavens. So all of this makes perfect sense. He would come born as a son of man, be capable of dying just like any of us, would at some point in his life die, at whatever point it is, whether by accident, by attack, or by old age, but he would die just like any of us would. But that after he dies, he must clearly ascend up to the heavens to be with God, so that he can return at the end of days, as Daniel says, to enact the messianic criteria of the global kingdom under God. That makes perfect sense. That explanation makes absolutely perfect sense, and it fits perfectly with what the Tanakh tells us about the Messiah. I think this is inarguable evidence of my claim. So if any rabbi or even any member of Judaism who's watched this, give me your opinion in the comment section, because I feel quite strongly that this cannot be argued against. This logic is quite sound. Okay, so anyways, take care, folks, and God bless.